Shalom, everybody. So in this video, I kind of want to talk about just how to be happy. So basically, everybody in this entire world just wants to be happy. And we all have our different views about how that's going to happen. Some people feel like, if they get enough material items, then they'll be happy. Some people feel like they need to be superior than others in order to be happy. There are so many different ways out there that people think is going to make them happy. And I talked about this last year, a little bit after Christmas, because there was that book that I had them discussing at the Catholic church that I went to. And so you can see that video. It's on my channel. But basically, I did bring up this point. A lot of people are searching for things because they think those things are going to make them happy. But the reality is that we can actually become happy first. And that's part of what I've learned with those Abraham-Hicks videos, is that we actually have to become happy first. We have to move into that state of being, and then things happen. And so I've been studying cognitive behavioral therapy for the past couple of weeks, I guess. And it is basically very similar to what Abraham teaches. However, there are some things that are different. And the teacher of the class, probably doesn't really get into that. He mentioned The Secret. He doesn't really seem to be into the law of attraction. And he mentioned the placebo effect. But anyway, regardless, I don't have to agree with everything he says. But this behavioral therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, is very, very interesting to me. And originally, I wanted to become a psychologist and know why we think the way we think and why we do the things we do. And I can see how I've come full circle into learning that stuff here now. And so basically, I want to talk about that because changing the way we think is basically how we're going to become happy. And that is what I have learned really a ton this past year, but also before then, of course. But, my story is long and complicated, but originally, of course, this was more a Christian type thing. And then I've still got people on my channel who just sort of hate the fact that I even have Abraham-Hicks stuff on here because they think she's a channeler and can't watch that stuff. But regardless, what I've picked up from Abraham and being able to change the way I think has helped me immensely, and I can see why now. Now I know why. And so I want to talk about this image on the screen. And this is the ABCs of cognitive behavioral therapy. Basically, first A, there's an activating life event, or you can think about this as an action. Something happens. Something has happened in your life. Maybe you've just hit a clogged highway. You've got traffic jam on the way home. And now what happens next? Immediately you see the traffic jam. And then people might say, well, now I'm just going to get upset because, everybody would get upset if they got stuck in a traffic jam. However, that's not true. So some people would actually just think, oh, this is time for me to relax. And then they would turn on maybe some music to relax to, or just even start to meditate, breathing techniques, etc., while they are sitting there waiting for the traffic to lighten up. So people's responses to a traffic jam are not going to be universal. It's never going to be the exact same thing. So a lot of people, Okay, so people's responses to actions, such as dogs barking, etc., that our response is going to be different. Everybody's response is going to be different. And we can actually change how we respond to the various dogs responding in my life. Go on, go lie down. Okay, so we have a choice on what to do when an action happens and how to think. A lot of people feel like the action is going to have a certain consequence. Traffic jam equals bad. People are upset. But that's not true, as I mentioned. Not everybody would get upset at a traffic jam. And so some people are able to sort of go with the flow more easily than others. And that is part of the trick to becoming happy, is being able to go with the flow when things happen. But basically, when an event happens, it gets filtered through our minds first. Well, after the event happens, so second. So an event happens, it gets filtered through our mind. We decide with our attitudes or our thoughts, rules about the way we think the world is supposed to work, our demands, our beliefs, any images or meanings, things that come up to our mind, we give it a meaning. We decide if that's good or bad when that action happens. And so there's a lot of people, when an action happens, like traffic jam, they may label that bad. However, somebody else who's been stressed might be like, oh, finally I have some time to relax. You know, I'm on my way home from work. I'm easygoing. You know, everything will work out fine. So I'm just going to sit here and do breathing exercises. And they can actually think of it as a good thing. So an action doesn't necessarily have to be bad. Even if you think it is bad, other people may be able to see it as good. So I've talked about that. The Hebrews said that there's no such thing as evil, and how everything is working out for the best. I know a lot of people don't agree with that, but hopefully with the whole idea of faith on this channel, and where I'm coming from is basically that our Creator is very good, and everything works out for the best, no matter what. Everything can be turned into good, even if you think it was bad originally. So everything is being used for a higher purpose. We may not always understand, but it's always for our own good and for the very good result of everybody involved, the whole world. And I know a lot of people can bring up things, and they do, like rape. What about rape? What about being assaulted as a child? But, you know, anything in your past, you can say, you know, I was this, they hurt me, and you can label yourself as a victim for the rest of your life. And then, of course, with law of attraction, you'll become a victim further on. And you're basically setting yourself up to be victimized for the rest of your life. If you label yourself a victim, you will continually go about seeing instances in which you are a victim. And so you are choosing, when you label yourself a victim, to become a victim for the rest of your life. It's only when you decide to not label yourself as a victim, label yourself as a victor, you know, taking charge, transmuting what happened in your past into something better in the future, that's when you find that you have sort of overcome. You have allowed yourself to be born again, born anew. You are a new creation. You know, you're no longer that old stuff that you used to think. Now you're new. And so we have that choice about whether or not we want to do that. You know, do you want to create a new life for yourself? Every single day is an option to change your life, to change the way you think. It changes your life. Law of attraction. Like I said, if you believe that you're a victor, you're always transmuting things that other people call bad into something good, you will see instances in the rest of your life where you are a victor. You know, if you see yourself as a victim, you are going to see instances in which you're always a victim. We have that choice, and it's all in the way we think. Because of B, our beliefs. We are the ones who decide whether something was good or something was bad when it happened. And so then after we decide that, let's say the traffic jam was bad, then we have C, consequences. So all of a sudden, traffic jams are bad. Here I'm at a traffic jam. Now I'm going to be very upset. But if you go back, see traffic jam, think traffic jams are a time to relax and allow me to just rest, then traffic jams, your emotions afterwards are going to be, oh, good, relief. It's positive. And so if you want to feel happy emotions like relief, rather than negative emotions, then you just need to change the way you see the situation. Again, I mentioned this on my Facebook page, and somebody, you know, immediately was thinking like, you know, that's bad. Changing the way you think is bad. Trying to label something that was bad as good is somehow not good. Because you're changing the way you think, and they might think, oh, brainwashing. But here's the thing. Everybody has been brainwashed. We grew up as children into society in which we were told this is good and this is bad, and I like this, I don't like that. We came up with all these things, and a lot of people have a lot of stuff that they think is good, right, rules. The rules is part of B, beliefs, and they think you can't see things a different way or else there's something wrong. We were all taught this is good and this is bad as we were growing up. So, if we were brainwashed up to this point, then when you're changing your beliefs, you're taking back the power from when you were brainwashed, from the media, the TV, the schools, the parents who didn't know better. You know, our fathers have inherited lies. We've been taught things that just were not true. And it's up to us to be able to take back our minds. If you want to be happy, change the way you see situations. And so this whole past year, that's what I have been doing. I think I mentioned this even more than a year ago at this point, because at some point, you know, I was doing the transcription and then that sort of petered off, and I really was not making much money doing it. I was just making something. And that was what I needed at that point in time to feel like at least I'm making something from having nothing. So, you know, that petered off and I was like, well, what am I going to do? So an event happened. You can say, I'm getting fired or I'm getting laid off or something random happens like that. And you think, this is bad. Well, why is it bad? Why do you think it's bad? Well, you think, well, you know, I'm not going to have money. But here's the thing. Our Father is working out for our best always. This is what the art of allowing is, to understand that our Father has already got plans for our lives. And if we just sit back and allow these things to happen without labeling them as bad, then we'll see that it's for our greater good. And so that happened. And then I meditated because I'd been studying Abraham-Hicks, and I realized that I need to meditate because I can't just go on thinking this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, because that would just bring forth more bad. So I meditated. That's what you do. When your mind is racing with a bunch of things you don't like, you meditate to release those thoughts. And then you can sort of float like the cork bobbing on the surface of water and see things more clearly the way the Father sees them. That's another thing. I've done a video in the past. If something happens and you want to label it bad, ask God, how is this good? Where is the benefit? What is this leading to? Why do you see this as good? Because every single negative emotion that you have means you're not seeing this the way that your source or God sees it, or your higher self. However you want to say it, doesn't matter to me. A lot of people get stuck in saying, you know, it has to be this language or that language. It doesn't. Just doesn't. We need to learn to be able to be open to other languages and thoughts and ideas about how to say things. Anyway, so my point is something happens and then you can say, how was this for the greater good? How is this working out for me? Because everything is always working out for you. And that is faith in God, that everything is working out for you. If you don't believe that, then that is a lack of faith that everything is working out, that He's got everything in control, that somehow something went wrong. And that's where people start to believe in the demiurge. If you don't know what the demiurge is, I have a whole video playlist on why I don't agree with the demiurge belief. Basically, the demiurge belief is actually turning you into a victim. That there's some sort of evil or ignorant creator who created this world, and there's things that are bad, and that's why life sucks. And then you just sort of scapegoat everything onto that, and you don't take responsibility, you're a victim, and then you don't have a good life. How could you? Going about thinking that you're a victim. So, in order to have a happy life, we have to see things the way that our Creator sees them, because everything is very good. Everything. Yes, the rapes, yes, the murders, yes, the blah, 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 everything is very good. So again, you can see my video on that if you want to. I'll leave a link below in the description box. And I don't really mind if you guys don't agree with me. I'm just saying that if you want to be happy, you have to be able to see that everything is working out for you, that everything is very good. That is how to actually have freedom and happiness. And some would say that that's just sticking your head in the sand. But it's not. When you actually start to align with Source, become one with God, see things the way that He sees them, you start to see that everything is working out for the best. And then you see, well, if everything's working out for the best, then it is. You know, you sort of prove it to yourself. You know, maybe it's faith for a while, but as you have faith and go forward in that faith, you start to see that it is just reality. And so you'll see the way that it's working out for you. Of course, if you believe that things are bad, or evil, you'll continue to see that too through the law of attraction. So, you know, I'm not going to be able to change your mind, and that's okay. But for those who actually want to feel happy, the way to feel happy is to be able to see an action, an activating life event, and change the way you see that. Don't label it bad. Label it very good. Now, you might have some difficulty in changing that over time. It gets much easier. But basically, the thing that I would say is, once you see something, your immediate reaction may be that it's bad, but then you have to ask yourself, how does God see this? Because if you have, in C, negative emotions, negative feelings, things like that, it means you're not seeing them the way that the Creator is seeing them. And so you want to see it the way the Creator sees it. And so you go back to B and say, like, why am I seeing this as negative? Well, I have this belief that that's bad, you know. Usually you'll be able to know why you think something is bad. But then you have to ask yourself, if the Creator, my inner being, my higher self, etc., is not feeling these negative emotions, because this negative emotion is just, it's just vibrational dissonance from the truth. And so that's why it hurts, just like regular musical dissonance hurts. So this negative emotion is the dissonance. It's telling you you're not seeing this the way that God or your source or the higher self is seeing it. So what you want to do is ask yourself, how does, you know, God, my higher self, source, how do they see it? How do they see it from their higher perspective? You have to wonder, how are they seeing this right now, that they're not upset, that they're not mad, that they're not, you know, angry or fearful. They have a higher perspective, or he has a higher perspective. However you want to see it. Our higher selves are, you know, currently seated in heavenly places, and of course they're one with God right now because heaven is outside of time. And so that's why I can say they and not be like saying God is more than one, as far as anybody who cares about that. So yeah, I've got a lot of things going on here. I got the Christian view, I got the Abraham-Hicks view, and I got this cognitive behavioral therapy view, but I can see how it all works together. I can see how we can be happy because we just have to choose to see things from a different perspective. I have had times, I'm not perfect. I've had times, well, actually we can be perfect in our imperfection because our imperfection is what leads us to wanting more, etc. You know, step one moments, if you're into Abraham-Hicks, are definitely needed for expansion. So we see things that we want in the future, and then we get them because we're praying for them. You know, our spirit is praying for us, even when we don't realize it, for what we truly want, and that's being put in the heavenly treasures, the vortex, however you want to see it. So I use all this different language because there's a lot of different people who are hearing this stuff from different perspectives. And hopefully you're understanding what I'm saying. You can also ask questions, you know. I have the truth or talk thing where people talk to me too on the phone, if, you know, or voicemail or Skype or whatever. Not voicemail, Facebook voice calls. So anyway, basically, we just need to change our beliefs in order to be happy with everything that's happening in our lives. And because our emotions they're caused by our beliefs, we can actually take control and change, because we can change our thoughts. And I do believe in subliminal, you know, changing your mind with subliminal messages and things like that. Also, because last year I did a subliminal meditation track for myself, for making money, and then like the next day after listening to it with the binaural beats and everything to get me into that lower state of mind, then the next day I saw this job which started me on the sort of whirlwind of getting more money, etc. And that's what happened with, you know, with the transcription going down. Then all of a sudden I did meditation, and then boom, making more money again. And it's a lot more money than it used to be. So, you know, it definitely worked for me. Definitely worked for me. Sit. Just sit down. So anyway, we can change the way we see this world and see it from the eyes of God, the eyes of Source. I also have a video about that. So basically, I'll put a bunch of videos below if you are interested in checking that out. to learn more about my thoughts on things. But really, we need to see through his eyes. And the only reason we ever feel negative emotions are because we're not seeing it through his eyes, because we have these beliefs in the B section here that contradict the beliefs of God. And so, like I said, there's nothing wrong with changing your beliefs to align with the beliefs of God versus, the beliefs we were taught as children. And I think there's everything right with doing that. And I think that's basically what being born again is. We have to become like children. Well, what were children? They were innocent before all these, thoughts and beliefs about the way the world was supposed to work were put in. So, that's why they can be a lot happier than we can. Because they're seeing things the way God sees them. They're not seeing them through our lenses of, ideas, rules, and thoughts about how things have to be and what's good and what's bad and all that sort of stuff. They have a better perspective than we do. And so I think that is sort of what, being born again is all about. Changing our minds, becoming new creations. Our brains are new creations. And so a lot of people, like I say, will think, hey, action leads to consequences. They say A equals C. I'm mad or I'm sad because my lover left me. Abraham has a video about that, and I may actually post it. I'm not sure, but, there's a lady who keeps saying, I'm sad because my lover left me. I'm sad because my lover left me. And Abraham says, no, that's not it. You're sad because you're not seeing things the way that your higher self or inner being or source sees them. That's why you're sad. And it has nothing to do with whether or not the lover left. You're using that as an excuse. But it's because of the way you see things. That's why you're sad. So our beliefs are why we can be sad, upset, or happy. It is not the events. So a lot of people out there think, I'm upset because this event happened, or because this person said that, or because that person did this or did not do that. That's why I'm upset. Well, no, you're not. That's not why you're upset. You're upset because of your beliefs. And if you had changed the way you saw those situations in your head, your beliefs had changed, then you would not be upset. So we have the ability to change our beliefs back to the factory reset, back to the original, and we can see things the way our source sees them, or our God, or our higher selves, however you want to say it, and then we can be happy. Then we would get into the vortex. Then we would, be living heaven on earth, etc. And the reason people are living hell on earth is because of the way they see the world. And I know, in 2015, I went through my deliverance, and all of a sudden I was afraid of demons getting back in, and I can see things a lot more clearly now. But back then I got into the whole truther movement, and I was like, well, our leaders are lying to us, and this and that, and, all the different truther topics. And you can get really, really upset as you look into that stuff, and you can get fearful, and you can get, angry. If you saw a chemtrail plane going by, you could be very angry. If you don't forgive and let go and see it from a different perspective, you're going to just be angry and holding yourself down in these negative emotions. And it's up to us to change the way we think. So just try to keep this in mind whenever you get upset. Was it really the action that made you upset, or was it because you labeled it as bad? And can you see it from a different perspective? Ask yourself, how does God see this? How does my inner being see it? How does Source see it? And if you can do that, it may take a little bit. And sometimes you need to forgive people. I have videos on forgiving people. But once you do that, you get a higher perspective. You get a clearer mind. And that's what I've been doing this past year. And that's why I really appreciate this ABC of cognitive behavioral therapy picture diagram, because it really helped me to understand what I've been doing the past year, and why it has made me happier, why I have become more fulfilled and less stressed and less angry. Not that I was ever really angry, but sometimes things happen that I get upset. Like I have, dreams or plans that I have thought I was going to do, and then I don't, and so things come up and it can throw me for a loop, like I've had friends disappear. So like I thought I was going to be friends forever. That's not really the case, but it's just all in the way you see things, really, that can lead you to being happy. And Dakota has to go outside, I think. So I'm going to end this now, and hopefully you've really enjoyed it and found it helpful. And like I said, it's a good lesson to just always ask, how is God seeing this, or how is Source seeing this, whenever anything comes up that you are immediately feeling negative about, because you don't need to feel those negative emotions. You can see it from a higher perspective. And yeah, if you have any questions, just feel free to ask me, like I said, in the comments below. Thanks for listening, and shalom.